The point of us obviously meeting is to be able to brainstorm, give ideas, and create something that is going to be custom to your business, essentially, and able for you to send out to buyers, send out to sellers. I have brought a few of the templates I've used over the years and things that have worked. However, you need to be able to speak to whatever letter you're sending out, right? If someone's going to call you up and say, I got your letter, you need to be able to provide some sort of knowledge and information on the backside of that. So what I want to start with, and again, if we don't get any participation, I will just stand up here and wait until someone answers a question for me. But what are the reasons, what are the main reasons you would send a letter to a homeowner or a renter? What was the question? What is the reason you would send a letter to a homeowner or a renter?
To get a listing.
Okay. To get a listing. Who was that?
Nina.
Nina, thank you for participating.
Personalize
What are some other reasons? Like, why are we all on here, right? So that's the question, is what kind of letters are you wanting to send and what kind of business are you wanting to get? Because that's going to help me figure out how to construct a letter with you. So get a listing. What's another one?
personalize an offer.
What was that?
Personalize an offer, make it more personal.
Okay. Personalize an offer. What did you say?
Find off-market properties for buyers.
Okay.
Convince them to sell.
Okay. Off-market properties for buyers. Convince them to sell, so by increasing inventory. Right? What else? How about teaching that, you know, something about equity, right? So you're informing them about the market and what kind of equity they have in their house. So kind of an equity analysis. Who works with an investor? Anybody on here work with investors?
I have.
Okay, how do you find them properties?
Just like I do regular properties with, you know, on the MLS mostly.
Okay, so right now, if we're in multiple offers, what would be a good way to find investors of property? Probably not on MLS, so it doesn't go into multiple offers, right?
In
So
your market center.
in your market center, okay? What other letters do you guys want to try to provide or to send out?
Maybe referrals, asking for referrals potentially.
Okay, so almost like your sphere of influence or potentially past clients,
Yep.
okay?
What about like you sold a home in the neighborhood?
Awesome. So just sold, but what does the just sold mean, you guys? I think we think of just sold letters as I just sold this house in multiples, right? What about if you were buyer representation and you had them move in? What is another creative way that you can say to that neighborhood to introduce maybe those buyers to the neighbors? Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Johnson just moved into 123 blah, blah, blah. This is a little bit about them. We'd love to be able to help you if you have any real estate needs, right? So introducing your buyers even to the neighborhood. What else? Does anybody live in a neighborhood?
Like a geo
Anybody
farm,
on here?
like a geo farm letter or something.
Yeah, what about something that's happening in your neighborhood, right? Whether or not it's a farmer's market, whether or not it's, you know, fun events for the kids in the spring. You've got other things that are happening. So what if it was, yeah, kind of a geo farming, what's selling in your neighborhood, but also personalizing it to the fact that you live at a specific house in there. So you're not just like sending this out saying, hey, this is what's happening in your neighborhood. This is what's happening in our neighborhood, right? I live on 46th in York, and I just wanted you to know, if you weren't aware, these are the things that are happening that you and your family could enjoy. Does anyone do that?
Yep.
If you don't, the easiest way to do that is actually, even if you don't want to send it out, postcard. I have in the past sponsored the Fulton Farmers Market. And I would send out a schedule for every single weekend. The farmers market was there along with the vendors that are part of it. Right? So that's brand recognition at that point in time. Okay, anything else that you guys can think of?
Do a annual state of the market, state of the real estate market.
And you could do that monthly, right?
You could, yeah. I do it by a snail mail because I don't think they always open emails and things like that. So I know that way they're actually getting it, reaching everybody.
Okay, so annual, yearly, it could be quarterly. All right, any other ideas about that?
You could do events.
Okay.
And the other thing I thought of was anything related to holidays or things like that. I know there's been agents that send out like lottery tickets around St. Patrick's Day, something about like checking your luck, or, you know, something for Valentine's Day. I've seen a lot of times where people will tie it into holidays.
Okay, so as you mentioned, that's great, Maureen. As you mentioned holidays, what's happening right now? We are coming out of winter, going into spring. What about maintenance mailers, right? What do people need to do right now? They're turning on their faucets, they're getting their sprinklers cleaned, they should probably get their ducts cleaned again, get their AC, you know, serviced, gutters cleaned out. I mean, what if you did that as well? Hey, if you need a vendor list, don't even give them the actual vendors, but that's something that you're providing value. Right? So like seasonal checklist. All right, let's get two more, and then I'm going to read through these, and we're going to try to construct 2 or 3, maybe 4 different types of letters. Does that sound good? 2 more. What's 2 more things that you would send out a letter or a postcard or some sort of mailer?
So is that like was that already said with like a snapshot of their value of their home?
Well, no, they haven't said that. That was, he was saying more state of the market, I think on a grand level. You could do like a neighborhood snapshot, almost like monthly, of just that specific neighborhood too. Like, these are the 5 that have sold, and maybe not even mention their names, but say 6 houses sold in 554, whatever it is, or the Linden Hills neighborhood, or Fulton, or Wayzata. So like a neighborhood snapshot monthly.
I have 3 things.
Yep.
One that we're doing now is, well, like my Spence lost in multiples, right? So we're
Okay.
sending out a letter to that. I just sent out a letter to the Woodlake Village Town.
Buyer specific.
It says my buyer Spencer is pre-qualified. He's this, that, and the other thing. He's looking for this.
Here.
He's ready to go.
Okay. Okay. So
Yeah.
buyer specific. What else?
And Tony DeCello, you know, used to do just listed and just sold.
Yep.
Or actually a buyer one and a just listed one.
Okay.
So and I've been hearing on that morning mastermind call that they're saying, like, on the first Friday of the month, you could do just listed or just sold. And then on the third Friday of the month, you say, I've got these buyers looking for these things in these areas, and send those out the 3rd Thursday or whatever of every month. So you're sending those out monthly with the buyers you're looking for.
So I think there's 2 different letters that you can send on that with the just sold, right? You can send the just sold when it actually sold, and you can say what the purchase price was. You can say what it sold over asking, right?
Right.
What about the went pending? right? Which that's not what you'd have to use for marketing terminology. But if there are 71 offers on a house, like we all heard about last week, how many buyers are looking in that neighborhood? 70 buyers are still looking in that neighborhood. What does that letter look like? There are 70 other active buyers that lost out on this property I just listed. Have you ever thought about selling? Right? I mean, there's no other actual answer to that besides they're teed up, ready to go. This is what that house was. If yours is anywhere near that and you've thought about it, let's talk. Anybody else on Zoom? All right, so I'm going to read these off, and then I'd like to see in the chat, if you don't want to unmute yourself, which ones or which letters you'd like to try and construct today. So get a listing, personalize an offer, finding off-market properties for your buyers, trying to increase inventory, equity analysis, finding investment properties, a referral basis letter, just sold, buyer intro, so someone that you just helped buy in the neighborhood, geo farming the neighborhood, state of the market, events, mailer and promo, seasonal checklists, neighborhood snapshots, just listed and went pending. I'm going to let you guys fill that in so we can see which ones are kind of top of the list. What do you guys want to hear in here? Get a listing? Anything else in here? Terry, yes to what? All of them? I said pick two. Terry's, yes, let's do all of them. I like your participation though. Seasonal checklist and neighborhood snapshot. Okay. Referral base. Referral. Okay.
Get listings.
Okay. Getting listings, 2 geo farmings. Okay. Anything else?
I like the geo farming idea too.
Okay. So the number one is getting a listing, geo farming, and then the other two that we got anything on was seasonal checklists and neighborhood snapshots. So those are the 4. Let's start with getting a listing. Okay, well, how do we think we can do that? Like if you would put yourself in the consumer's brain, or when someone sends you something, what are the things in that letter that would need to be written?
Equity in your home.
Equity in your home, okay? Statistics on what pagey?
On their neighborhood.
Okay, statistics on neighborhood. Personalized name. Okay, so number 1 is personalizing their name on this, not just dear neighbor, not just, you know, anything else. A personalized name on this is going to be important. Okay. A wet ink signature at the bottom may sound dumb, but the fact that it's not just this random written thing that you didn't even look at is a big deal to people, a really big deal to people. Anything else? I can think of a reason. I can think of one. What about the reason why one should sell right now? Because you could put equity in your home and you can put statistics, but there has to be a closing in there. There has to be some sort of, this is why this is important and why you should make this decision, right? Okay, who on here is actually doing letters right now? Anybody? Okay, two people. What does your letter consist of? There's more. 3 people, 4 people. A few more. What are you sending out right now?
I actually, for all the letters that I have sent out lately, I have researched to see if they've been on the market before and when it was
Okay.
I write
So
down.
if it's like a canceled or an expired,
Right.
okay?
And I write down that, yeah, I noticed that you try to list your home for X amount of dollars back in and put the date in there. And then I list what the price was, and I include a very small RPR report of the property with it.
What's an RPR report for those that don't know?
A realtor property resources that is available on MLS,
Okay.
and you can do a mini property report on any home out there.
So you're sending out multiple pages of like something to somebody. Is this correct? Is that what I'm hearing?
Correct.
Okay. So I love that. And my attention span when I open something is about 5 seconds, right? So if I get multiple things from anything, I usually throw it away. Me personally, is anyone else like that? Like I need like 4 sentences of why I should even be reading that particular thing, in my opinion, right? So in regards to making this simple so that you're not spending too much time on specifics and we can get to a larger span, I would say it's like at least 100 letters you send out, right? So you find a 6-block radius by 6 blocks, find 100 houses. What are we sending to them to find a listing, right? So things you can include. Equity in the home. How do we find that, you guys? Do we know how to find that? Because you're not going to be specific to their house, right? You're going to be more specific to the houses that have sold. So do a 90-day search of what has sold in that area, right? Then do a 90-day search of what sold maybe 3 to 5 years ago in that same exact search, right? So you're going to see 5 years ago, a 3-bedroom, 2-bath sold for $300,000. And, in the last 90 days, that same 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom in the same exact area sold for $450,000, right? So that's a generalized number. You're not saying that their house has $150,000 of equity, but you're going to average that out when you look at, the last whatever amount of homes that sold in that area, right? And then you write that information in there. You can also find that in InfoSparks. So if you went back and looked at InfoSparks of what the average home price is in a specific zip code, 55410, 55405, whatever it is, 55416, and you look over the years of the average sales price in that zip code, you're going to be able to see what that equity is on average. Do you guys know how to do that? And maybe it's not even equity. You can say, hey, 5 years ago, these homes sold for X and they're now selling, the new average sales price is here, right? That's a $75,000 gain for the average home that's selling. So you add that in there. Dear Mr. and Mrs. Johnson, I've been in the market. We've been selling homes in this neighborhood for however many years you've been selling, whatever you want to do as your intro. So introduce why you're sending the email, right? Or why you're sending the letter. Then go right into the stat. I just want to let you know that the equity in the homes in this neighborhood have increased by 40% in the last 5 years. What do you currently think your home is worth, right? Maybe that's a question mark. If you're open to a equity analysis, it's complimentary and takes about 20 minutes. Please feel free to call me at 612-710 or email me at kamieaugustine@kw.com. I look forward to hearing from you soon. Sincerely, Kamie. Right? If you received that in the mail and it was an actual stat that turned your head, would that be at least worth an email? Yes, no? Right? At least a question. So what you're trying to do with this letter, if you're just looking for a listing, is spark the interest of what they could make. If you want to get more creative with that letter, then you add the information of what they could do with that equity. Maybe that's the opening line. You know, like, ever thought about remodeling your kitchen? Ever thought about owning an investment property? Awesome. Let's talk about what equity you have in your home, because what I've noticed is in 55410, whatever neighborhood you're looking, the equity has went up by 25% in the last 3 years. Okay, so get creative with your opening on that. That's just the template of how you can actually create that letter. Does anyone else have any suggestions or comments that have worked for them in letters in the past? Is it better to be shorter? So I'm going to read you a letter, right? So I'm incredibly short with any letter. And these, like when I started my business, all I did was door knock and send out letters. That's the only thing I did. I didn't even really cold call. So it would say, dear, I mean, this one says, dear, a certain name. As a realtor that specializes in Southwest Minneapolis, Edina, and St. Louis Park, I currently have buyers looking in your neighborhood. I've included descriptions of my buyers' criteria below. Literally, it said the name, Jana, right? 1 or 1.5 story home, 2+ bedrooms, 1+ bathroom, dining room, nice size kitchen, updates desired but not required, open to remodeling, price point $350 if move-in ready. If you or a neighbor or that you know would like to sell and their home fits this criteria, please contact me. This spring has shown tremendous activity and quick sales in the area. Don't wait to sell. Thank you in advance. Sincerely, Kamie Augustine. Legitimately, this is how I built my business. This was the letter.
Say, Kamie, did you get a good response from that? I mean, that's a great letter. I'm just thinking, what kind of responses do we get?
I would say for every 100 letters I sent out, I would probably get a response rate of some sort, good or bad, right?
Okay.
At about 10 responses of I've been thinking about it, or, you know, I'm not thinking about it now, but we might in the next few years. Some sort of response, or thanks for reaching out. So my thing was, I sent this letter and then I would door knock that same area.
Okay.
And then I would ask them if they received the letter. Hey,
Yep.
I sent the letter out, you know, about a week ago or a week and a half ago. I just wanted to follow up because we still haven't found a house for that buyer. These were actual buyers, right? But there's no way that there was always going to be a match. So then I turned that into an actual listing appointment. But you can do the same thing with the equity analysis of, hey, did you get my letter about 2 weeks ago? I just wanted to come and see if you'd be interested in an analysis of your house. I
Okay.
always say that you send the letter and either call or door knock to follow up.
Good. Thank you.
Who does new construction? Anybody? Okay, does anybody have clients that remodel? Because here's another one that I used to do, because I worked with a new construction company a lot. On behalf of the Augustine team, thank you for your patience during the construction process of 4507 Drew. We're real estate agents for the project, and this, the blah, blah, blah home builder. We hope that the construction process was non-invasive as possible. We're looking for neighborhood opinions regarding the construction final product. And then we'd attach a survey, right? Since Bella Custom Homes and Augustine team do work together, we would love to be able to tell you what your home is worth. Or if you have any remodeling questions or needs, please feel free to contact us at XYZ, right? So any clients that you can write a letter for anything, because anyone around there is having trucks drive past, contracting trucks, you know, like pounding sounds. It's an opportunity to introduce yourself as the agent. And then if they have questions, you're a resource for them. Any questions around that? You guys are either really quiet or you're not actually paying attention. I'm not really sure. Terry's at least laughing.
We're gonna go with quiet, Kamie. That's what we're gonna go with. I'm sitting in this open house trying to not make a move here, so.
Okay, so what are other ways? So that's the equity analysis letter or a potential buyer that you have for the house. What are other ways that you guys can think of to reach out to a seller? Right now, like in this market, what's another way?
Okay, I wrote a letter to some off-market
Okay.
properties on the North Shore, so I can't go follow up with those very easily,
Okay.
but my buyer was willing to take care of their closing costs, so I
Okay.
just put like four or five bullet points of like the benefit to the seller by selling off-market. So it's just
Okay.
like bold and then a little bit of information like control, time, privacy, save money, and a bonus like that will give your closing costs.
Okay, so you wrote a buyer letter essentially. You actually almost wrote an offer.
Right.
Like it was a generalized offer. You guys, this is probably the most genius thing that you could ever do, right? You have a buyer that lost out on whatever house or they can't find one, okay? It's similar to here's my buyer's needs. You can just word it differently. You know, dear homeowner, specify whatever their name is. I have buyers, the actual buyer's name, right? Heather Knutson, who is looking in this particular area. She is willing to pay X amount for these items. If it does not hit the market, she is willing to take care of, you know, any extra cleaning, any closing costs, any moving fees to get it out of the house, whatever it is that they're nervous about. Because when you think about selling a house, what do you have to do? You have to downsize, you have to stage, you have to declutter, you have to do all of this stuff, right? So you write in there, they're open to a 30 or 60-day closing. If you need 90 days, we can help you find these vendors, right? And take all of the fear out of that seller's mind. So you're writing a reverse offer essentially to that seller of what your buyer is willing to do. I mean, be careful because you have to make sure that they're willing to do those things, right? And maybe asterisk it's if it meets all of their needs and criteria. But it's one where it would help not scare the seller on being overwhelmed at the time. Are you talking about the equity analysis letter in regards to specific data, or do you want, because here's the other thing, if everybody writes their email in here, I can send a few just like templated copies to you of what these look like, just so that you have them and then you can either copy and paste or do whatever you'd like with them. Does that sound okay, Linda? Awesome. Okay, so what other things to get a listing that we can think of? So buyer specific reverse offer, the equity portion. What else would make someone want to sell their house right now?
A house to buy.
Okay, so that's a great option. So that comes almost with the just listed, right? So why are people moving? It's either to get a bigger house or to downsize. Okay, so whatever house you have listed or an office, like if you don't have any listings and your office has a listing, go to that agent and say, hey, can I just use this house as a marketing tool, right? And say, hey, we just listed 123 Main Street. It's this, and this, right? It's going to be a great opportunity. And maybe you don't even put the address, but if you're looking, we do have a few off markets available, right? Because with the coming soon, I don't know if any of our brokers are on here, but you have to be careful on that. But if you don't give an address and say that you have these and that you actually do, it could be something that would spark their interest to sell. Because a big objection right now is I have nowhere to go. Well, if you keep getting in front of people in that particular neighborhood that things are coming up, they're going to reach out to you as the buy side as well. So using things that are in the docket without giving specifics is something that I believe is still okay as long as you don't give the address. Anything else?
Do you need to get your buyer's permission to put that kind of stuff in the letter?
What kind of stuff? Like their criteria or what?
Yeah, like their name and their criteria and what they're looking for.
I usually only put first names. I would always ask them. So in my buyer consultations, I used to say, and I think a lot of agents will say, do you mind if we send letters or prospect for homes off of the market for you? And at that point in time, they might ask you, what are you going to share? Unless you're writing a reverse offer, right? A reverse offer letter, I wouldn't share exact price point. I might give a range like up to 500 or up to $1 million, just to kind of give an idea. But yeah, I'd ask for permission, but I would never give the first and last name of the buyer. Even if I had their permission, I probably wouldn't. I would just put, you know, Becky and John or whoever it might be. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I do know a lot of people will just put buyer A and buyer B. I feel like that looks like it's not actually valid. And I think a lot of people, the consumer, like when I did that, I didn't get as many responses, right? It just sounds like you have to put a name, just like in a testimonial, people want to see a name attached to it. It just personalizes it and makes sure that that is actually real.
Sometimes a name can bring discrimination, unfortunately.
I mean, that's, you know, but it's your buyer. Like that's on whoever's reading the letter, in my opinion, you know, so.
Amy, I
Yeah.
have a sample letter that was shared on one of the mastermind calls I was on that this guy used pretty consistently and got 9 listings with it.
Okay, would you mind reading the letter? Can everybody hear Wendy right now? Yes or no? Okay, Wendy, you gotta speak.
Yes.
I've never had a problem being loud.
You gotta be louder.
So I've used this to send out to some specific areas, and it was just, hi, I'm a local realtor in the area. The housing inventory is slim and I'm searching for homes for my clients. My buyer, Spencer, recently lost out on a 1-bed, 1-bath condo. So you could name whatever it was that they lost or what they're looking for in multiple offers in Woodlake Village. He is pre-approved, non-contingent buyer with flexibility on closing. Your property would be a great fit for Spencer. If you would consider selling in the near future, give me a call or shoot me an email. This is a fantastic opportunity to receive a strong, all caps, offer and not have the hassle being displaced for showings. And then it's very short. It doesn't.
Did you hear the piece of that is not being displaced for showings, right? So there's like an easeability of a strong offer, not being displaced for showings.
Lots of flexibility. So
everything in there is giving that seller power.
Mhm.
So essentially in you're sparking interest, giving them power. And what I like about that,
And then if you're interested, if you're curious about the value of your home on the market, we could provide you with, there's a little mofer at the bottom, but that basic letter is, that's a version of what this guy's been sending out and got 9 listings with it last
all
year.
right, how many of us are working with buyers right now? How many of us have had buyers lose on properties? How many have sent out letters after they lost on a property in that neighborhood?
Started.
1. I think that was just 1 that raised their hand. And Wendy. So two people, right? What would that look like if we sent out, we just said that a listing agent can send that out and say, I've got 70 buyers. What if you're one of the buyers that says, hey, I just lost out over the weekend, and you just have this, you know, again, we can make this templated email right now if you want, or this letter. We just lost out, you fill in with how many offers, you know, with whatever over list price, you know, we offered X over list price. You don't have to say the actual amount, but say percentage, right? We really want to live in the neighborhood. It's essentially the buyer letter, right? When you're telling the seller what you love about their house, tell these people what you love about the neighborhood, and you've lost out. I've lost out on 9 different homes. I'm just looking for a place in your neighborhood. If you've ever thought about selling, we're going to make it as easy as possible for you and use things like strong offer, flexible close. You know what I mean? And see if you can get, I mean, that's the other thing. How many referrals do you think you would get if you found that house by writing that offer for your buyer? There are so many buyers that are exhausted and they don't want multiples anymore.
Did you see NAR sent an email today saying that the average nationally now is, the average buyer is writing 5 offers before they get one accepted. There's it's an average of 5 offers on every property, at least 5 on every property. Maybe that's what it was.
So we had that buyer panel, I think it was last week, right? And all of the buyers on there, which I would be interested in asking any buyer's agents. Are there any buyer's agents on this? Like buyer's agents only?
Yeah, that's what it is.
Okay, so
5 offers.
how many buyer's agents are finding off-market properties? Honestly, everyone said they wanted to find listings by these letters. I think the biggest thing we should be doing is finding properties for our buyers with these listings or with these letters, which will turn into more listings, right? So we find these houses that may or may not fit our buyers' needs. Now they're prospects in our pipeline. And with that, you can find another property for your buyer. You're kind of doing 2 things at once. So right now, we're just kind of at the beck and call of the MLS or off-market properties in our offices. I'm going to say we might not be doing enough. And I know every buyer's agent will probably give me the middle finger for saying that, but I'm really saying it to try to make it easier for you, right? So that we're not hitting up against every other person that's doing the same thing. We have to do something different. Whether or not it's a letter, whether or not it's a call, or it could be any of those. It could be door knocking. But getting in front of people before they're on the market is kind of the necessity currently. And with that, inventory will increase as well. Because more and more people that you come in contact with will raise their hand to sell at that point in time. Okay, if we have no other questions about how to get a listing, let's talk about the geo-farming letters. Who is currently farming a neighborhood? Anyone?
I am,
Maureen?
yes.
Linda? Okay, what are you guys doing to farm right now?
I'm going to be hosting an egg hunt in the neighborhood with a lender. And I do a book club in the neighborhood.
Okay, and do you send, how do you let people know this?
We have a homeowners association page. So I frequently have things that go up on the homeowners page. And, you know, there was a flyer that went out on the page, but I have not door knocked or anything like that because it's the neighborhood I live in.
Okay. So let's go into, this is like a golden letter workshop, right? But it doesn't actually have to be a paper letter, right? So we can do a paper letter. We can do a postcard. You said home association page, right?
Yes.
Okay. You can do next door, however, you have to pay for that, right? So if you're doing that as a business, it has to be paid for. If you're doing it on a personal level, this is the biggest place that you can geo-farm anywhere, is next door. Why? Because everyone has something to say on next door. The cat ate the garbage of the neighbor and someone has an opinion on that, right? I would not get into that discussion, but people ask for things all the time. Hey, who do you know as a painter? Hey, who do you know as such and such? This is your time to shine in any category and know a recommendation for any of those, right? Someone's leaving, something happened. Comment on every single next door post that you can. Keep it very neutral, you know, like, don't yell about the cat that was in the person's backyard. Maybe stay away from that. But your name showing up on there is the biggest piece of marketing that you can do as a like personal level, right? Like, hey, I know of someone, this is a great painter, this is a person that does concrete, this is a great cleaning person, right? So always comment on that. Always.
But never as like, as a realtor, I use, or I direct my clients to, like, do you tie in that you do, like you're in the biz
I do.
on Nextdoor, or do you just keep it like, I know everything?
I usually comment on it in a very non-asking for business way, so it's not a solicitation. Like, let's just say, Wendy's the one that asked for something. Usually I'll message her or I'll like put it in the comments. Hey, that's a great question, Wendy. As a realtor, we've used this person and a lot of my clients do, so I know that they have great success with them. They're really great at indoor painting. Tell the name. This company is really great at outdoor painting. If you need any other suggestions, please feel free to reach out. Right? So it's like and almost like do a little bit of a testimonial of like my clients have used as well, or I personally have used, or if you're an investor or whatever, say, hey, I use this person for my Airbnb cleanings. So I would always plug that in there. And then I think in your profile, you can add different things too, so people start seeing that. Because then once you're there, then you start sending the letters, you start sending the postcards, right? And the other place is Facebook. So there's always a neighborhood Facebook page. You also cannot actually market to that. But when we were talking about neighborhood snapshots, that's a great opportunity in that group to take the neighborhood snapshots from command, right? So you can get a neighborhood and it says, this is what's going on. Shoot that video into there and just say, hey, like even like an asterisk, this is not a solicitation. However, I just want you to know this is what happened in our neighborhood last month, right? People want to know. You don't have to ask for business. I wouldn't ask for business at that level. Just say, just wanted this for your information. No, I mean, no one's going to be like, don't ever put that information, what's sold in our neighborhood ever again. They're all looking on Zillow. And they might, right? And at that point in time, that's a great opportunity to say, I am so sorry I offended you in any way. I was not soliciting. I just thought you might want to know this information. Then they're going to seem like, oh man, I'm a real a-hole, right? Because once you use the words, I didn't mean to offend you, people are like, well, you didn't offend me. Awesome, then what's the problem? Right? Like you kind of like take that off of them because really they're just trying to complain to complain. And usually those people end up using you in the end. Like they truly do. I had one person tell me that I was like Integrity Lakes was the old office that I was at, and they had integrity, and they like, if you think you have integrity, blah, 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 blah. 6 months later, I sold their house. So, and it was all because of a tear down letter. Because they thought that I was offending their house because I said it was a tear down. I didn't say it was a tear down. I said my client was looking for a tear down. Very different. Right. So, okay. So what are some of the events we could geofarm with? So you said holidays. I'd be very careful on the holiday scheme, right? If you're going to send out holiday stuff, I would send out every single holiday, right? So I'd be a little careful on that and keep that across the board. Just a forewarning on that. What about the maintenance schedules? I don't know if that's how you spell it. You can Google anything that says spring maintenance checklist, fall maintenance checklist, summer maintenance checklist, winter, right? And you're going to get multiple different things. Pick and choose like 6 things and just put it on a postcard, put it in a letter, and just say, hey, these are things you might want to do in April, May, or June. Maybe you want to make it a monthly thing. April, this is what you do. May, this is what you do. June, this is what you do, right? And they're going to read that because they don't know. Did I switch my filter in my furnace? Most likely they didn't, right? But you still need to do that even when it's not winter because it still runs with the AC. So it's things that they're not going to remember that you're going to spark their interest with. So maintenance is one. Farmers markets in the neighborhood or in the area are a big one. If there's families in the area, like family camps or things that are happening in local parks. And this is informational, right? So you're sending them this as information you might want to know. Or here, these are things that are happening in April. These are things that are happening in May. And then just put your name, you put your logo, and you put whatever else on that sheet, right? So now it's name recognition. I would always still at the bottom say, if you have any, real estate needs questions about remodeling or vendors, please feel free to always reach out. I'd be happy to give you a complimentary analysis, home analysis, equity analysis, whatever you want to say, kind of as your tagline at the bottom. What other things, put yourself in, like, if you wanted something about your neighborhood, what would you want to know about? Nothing? I mean, that's how I am. I just like stick to myself and I'm like, don't talk to me, but. What about people that are into fitness, right? So there's runs, there's walks, there's charity events. There's so many things that happen in different neighborhoods that pick your poison, right? Focus on it and give information about it. So this could be fitness stuff. This could also be who's coming into the neighborhood, what new businesses. What if you did a local spotlight of small businesses in each area, right? You have a cute new shop that's owned by mom and pop. You have a hardware store that's owned by such and such. Go interview them and say, hey, how'd you get your business started? Do you have anything coming up, right? Or you have a new grand opening of something. Be the local expert of everybody there, right? So you know the economics of your neighborhood. So you know what's selling, you know who's buying, you know what's happening with that, but then know why people should live there. What's going on in the park systems? What's going on in the trails? What new businesses? What are the local amenities that are happening? Right? The one thing that we all seem to forget about is what is happening with construction and road situations in your neighborhood, right? There's always something going on, but we never actually look into our cities, right? So someone knows, they'll see something, a house will get torn down, a new development, something will happen, whatever it is, be the person that knows about that. Hey, I just wanted to let you guys know there's a new apartment building going up at such and such and such and such. If you ever have any questions about that, I'd love to be able to be a resource for you. Everybody has questions about that. Everybody has questions about anything that's new. What's going on with the road work over here? Find out. It's a great question. You know what? 50th in France between this and this is going to be closed from this time to this time. And you can find all this stuff through the city's websites, calling, whatever it is. Any other ideas about farming? Linda, what are you doing for farming?
Well, I actually just started in February and I mailed out postcards in February, right around Valentine's Day. And then I did it again in March for St. Patrick's Day.
Okay.
So far, I think there's about 160 in the farm area, and it's the neighborhood that I live in and kind of grew up in this area.
Okay.
So I don't know, my thoughts are, when it gets a little nicer out, I would like to, go door knock and just see if anybody's interested in the area. Either selling or anything. Then I thought about this spring, your summer, they usually do the neighborhood night out. Where the police officers come and the fire trucks. And I thought, that might be a really good opportunity to, see if people want to or interested in having something in our neighborhood for that, and maybe being the voice of it and getting people to attend, etc.
I love that. So
That's a great idea.
here's a few other things, depending on where you live, right? When you actually use Nextdoor, this would be a great thing to get people engaged, is asking questions in that, right? I find it interesting who lived in a neighborhood the longest. How many people have ever door knocked, like, I've lived here for 55 years, and they could go on and on and on and on and on and on about the neighborhood. Like, put yourself out there once and ask the question in Nextdoor, like, hey, I'm just curious, who's lived in this neighborhood the longest? See what the responses are, and then ask that person out to coffee. Why? Because Gertrude or whoever it is that's lived there the longest, I guarantee they're going to have a story for every single thing that's ever happened. Right? And then you're going to find out what's going on, who is who, what did the neighborhood look like, and it's things that you might not have even known. The other part is finding out the history of your neighborhood, right? So each neighborhood was just land at some point in time. Do you actually know what the history of that neighborhood was? Who was the first developer that bought the land? Who are the builders? Usually there's 4 or 5 builders in each neighborhood, no matter if it's new construction or old, right? St. Paul and Minneapolis is the same thing. Most of the houses in 1910 and 1920 were actually bought out of a catalog.
Yeah.
Fun fact. That's why they all look the same. And then there were builders that built those. So find out the history and actually love what we do. Like, we're in this industry, right? Because we love helping people, and we love doing that through the actual mechanism of selling, buying, and investing in real estate. Learn more about it each and every day. Like, kind of take yourself out of just the what's on the market, who are my clients, but be really knowledgeable. What other questions do you guys have as we kind of close this out? Any? Did you guys find this helpful?
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Okay. I will send you guys, it might not be today, it may be tomorrow, some of the templates as well as some of the things that we wrote up on the board and just kind of suggestions. Please feel free to always reach out as well. I think we all learn by making the mistakes ourselves, and I know there's plenty of agents on here and agents in the offices that have made mistakes. And learn from that and get better each time. So there's no letter that's like the end all be all. And when you have successes with it, I would also like you guys to share, right? So that we can tell people, hey, guess what? This worked really well for us. And then we can share it in a setting like this as well. So, all right. I will send that email out. If you guys don't have any other questions, just look for that and hope to see you at a different workshop.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. Have a great one.
Thank you.
We need to give somebody